Hello, Amazon resellers of other brands that are not your own. This is Chris McCabe back with an Amazon suspension trend. And I just wanted to do today's video to clarify a lot of things I'm seeing, a lot of mistakes that resellers are making, both when they source product and when they appeal a suspension. Obvious to almost every reseller at this point is that Amazon's looking for reasons to take out resellers and to clean up the space, if you want to say it that way, but to make sure that you're buying from authorized distributors of brands. You want to make sure that those authorized distributors can produce a letter of authorization, preferably on the company letterhead of the brand, and that you have a copy of that. You don't ask them for it after you get suspended. You have it in your hands before you ever list those ASINs on Amazon. Trying to fix this after the fact is getting harder and harder every week. And at e-commerce Chris, we're being approached multiple times a day by resellers who have already submitted invoices. They said, we submitted these in the past, they were accepted. Now they're not accepting them. What's going on? Well, things have changed. That's what's going on. And you have to change, especially if you haven't been suspended yet. Heed this call, because you can still prevent one, possibly and potentially, but there's a chance that you could prevent it. I tend to hear from people that are already suspended, that already made a bunch of mistakes, either with their appeals or buying from suppliers who really were never going to pass Amazon's verification process. Either the invoices weren't going to pass, they were missing info, or some suppliers don't even have a website. Sometimes the website doesn't even look like they sell products similar to what you're selling. They're just lower tier suppliers that will not meet and exceed Amazon's scrutiny. And Amazon's response to, you submitted invoices we can't take, your supplier has a weak looking presence online, their response to that is to suspend your account. There aren't a lot of extra account health calls where they call and give you 72 hours to write either a plan of action or to get your invoices together. Yes, they still have this notion of account health assurance, which means you have a few days to give them the documents they want. But whether you have 72 hours or 7,200 hours, it's not going to make any difference if your supply chain documentation is nowhere near in the state it needs to be accepted. Now, some people are still successfully sourcing items that are not from authorized distributors of brands or that are not directly from brands. Obviously, if you're buying directly from the brand, you should have your own LOA, your own letter of authorization from that brand owner. But the only other way out is to have your supplier's supply chain documentation. What does that mean? Your supplier invoice is what Amazon wants to see. If you go back to Amazon, as many sellers are still telling me they do, you go back and say, my supplier won't show me his or her invoice. They either don't have it, or company policy means they won't show it to me. They don't disclose their sourcing methods. Then you're done. You have no way out of that situation, because they're definitely not showing you a letter of authorization if they're not even willing to tell you where they got the product. If you're buying from suppliers who aren't willing to tell you where they got their source, where they're sourcing product, or you can't figure it out and prove it and document it yourself, then that is not a supplier you can use to sell on Amazon. It is that simple. I've had numerous people approach me, and not just in emails and phone calls, but we've been approached at events, networking discussions we've had with people in person, saying, well, this is a supplier who's been in the resale business for 15 years, 20 years. They're an established wholesaler. And I stop them in their tracks and say, that's great. So that means they're an authorized distributor of the brand. They have a letter of authorization that they can show you, not a letter that they give you saying that they're authorizing you to resell those brands. That's meaningless. I've still had a lot of resellers showing me those. I don't know why. And this is not about an authenticity letter where your supplier guarantees the authenticity of the products. That was relevant maybe in 2020 or 2021, not today. You need to know that your established wholesaler that you bought from for 10 years or 15 years has an LOA, or you can show their invoice for where they source the inventory. If they got the inventory from the brand, maybe the brand has a record of it. But your supplier is supposed to be, in a sense, your business partner on this sourcing, and they're supposed to be able to show you this documentation. If they think that's cruel or unfair or ridiculous or proprietary, none of that matters to Amazon. You either have this or you don't. Expecting to talk your way out of it is not an approach that will be successful. And that's why if you're currently a reseller, You probably know a lot of other resellers suspended, having trouble getting reinstated, number one. Number two, there aren't as many resellers out there. Most of the ones doing online or retail arbitrage are gone. Amazon stopped taking retail receipts. There was no evidence that that reseller had any relationship to the brand. And they didn't have an LO, and they just kept barraging their reseller. Obviously, Amazon does this for selfish reasons. They're tired of all the intellectual property complaints. They're tired of brands submitting trademark complaints or even unsubstantiated counterfeit allegations. If you're being falsely accused of counterfeit, yes, you can still dispute that. But get ready to lose a lot of sales, a lot of time, and a lot of sleep with Amazon responding to appeals asking for an LOA. I've seen other resellers who were appealing it on their own come to us, showing us numerous plans of action that they sent in. Well, I don't have the supply chain documentation Amazon wants, so I'm going to write a really good POA. That is ancient thinking. It has nothing to do with what's going on right now. Maybe they're looking at articles from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when a POA was still the main way to get reinstated. I still talk to numerous resellers out there, all sellers actually, who are using POA as a misnomer. They think it's synonymous with the word appeal, and it's not. There's all kinds of appeals. There's only one appeal that goes with a POA. If Amazon says you're not getting reinstated without a good plan of action, then yes, do a plan of action. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You're wasting Amazon's time. You're appealing the wrong way. You're using the wrong format. All of that time and energy you spent on a low percentage appeal, you could have been improving your sourcing. And if you're suspended now, you probably could have prevented the suspension by appealing the ASIN level restrictions and notifications in your account health better with invoices from authorized distributors or directly from the brands. But this is the new reality. I don't see this rolling back or changing anytime soon. Yes, there are sellers out there who are not doing it this way, who are winging it. I consider them basically day to day. So if you want to run a business on Amazon where any morning could be your last on the platform, I can't dissuade you from doing that. You've already made a decision. All I can tell you is that if you're in this for the long haul, make sure you can document with links to websites, proper invoices that will pass Amazon scrutiny. That make sure you're demonstrating that you're buying from authorized distributors or buying directly from these brands. Generic wholesalers, liquidators, arbitrage, all these other avenues are only going to lead to a brick wall when Amazon says, well, what about that guy's invoice? He got it somewhere. Where did he get it? If you don't have it, you're buying from somebody who is not your friend and not going to help you sell on Amazon. So that needs to change immediately. I've seen a lot of heartache and a lot of suspensions that sellers have had trouble fixing over this. Any questions or comments on it, feel free to let me know either here on this video or contact me at ecommercechris.com. Thank you.